What's going on, guys? I'm here today to help you figure out why your security alarm system may not be immobilizing. Now, I'm working here on my 2005 Acura MDX. Now, this procedure also goes for the model of 2001 to 2006 MDX. So if you have this issue, hopefully this helps you out. Now, this issue with this vehicle is that whenever I lock it, there is no beeping sound. So the beep is meant to confirm that the security system is engaged. And I've been driving this vehicle for about 4 years now, and I realized that this vehicle has never ever beeped on me. I didn't even think that it did until one day I was searching up online how to fix a transmission pressure sensor, and I will get into that on another video. So here we're going to figure out why this vehicle was not immobilizing the security system. So what I read online is that some vehicles do it, some do not, depending on the year that you have or the model. Now, from what I find out, that all MDXs within 2001 to 2006 should beep, and the beep is to only confirm locking, not unlocking. Now, how you get the beep is once you press the lock button, the lock is supposed to initialize the locking of the car, and the second time within 5 seconds of pressing the lock button again, it's supposed to confirm that the security system is engaged. So then is when you're supposed to hear a beep. So once you push it once, you should not hear a beep, which is basically here. That's only a light confirmation that your car has been locked. Now, once you lock it, within 5 seconds of locking it, you should hear a beep. I did not. No matter how many times I pushed the lock button, not one beep. So some people say that it's very likely that when you lock it, put your ears next to the hood and you should hear a beep. I still did not. I had tried it over 10 times and not one beep was coming out of this vehicle. So I tried to figure out what is wrong with it. So I scanned it, still nothing said anything wrong with the security system, no codes, no nothing. Car never had any sort of big problem with codes. So what I decided to do is try to figure out why this vehicle did not beep. Now, the first thing what you should do is, if you have an electrical issue, is check the fuse box. Now, the fuse box is basically located for the security system on the driver's side. So if you go underneath here, the fuse box is located right above here. So right here you should see that the security immobilizer system should be there, and you should see the fuse. I believe it's a 7.5 right there on your right. Now that will tell you if the horn is engaged with the security system. Now, another way to also check is if you push the panic button on the remote, the horn goes off. By default, you are manually setting off the alarm. So that means that the fuse should be okay. So if you push panic and your car alarm starts going off, that means that the fuse is okay and the horn is working. Now, when you lock the car, or should I say when I lock the car, all the doors would be locked, the trunk would be locked, everything would be locked. So I thought that this car was fully locked and the security system was on. But I did not notice that the security light on this vehicle was not blinking. And there it is. So I had assumed that this light burned out. So now I'm going to go through a series of tests that I did that helped me figure out where the problem was on my security system and why my car was not immobilizing the security and not beeping. So the first test you want to do, if you check the fuses and everything is okay, is you basically hit the car as hard as you can on any solid piece or shake it If that does not set off the alarm system, that means that your security system is not engaged, and that is the reason why there is no light. So if there is no vibrations to the car, the security system will not go off. But if you put any sort of force behind the car, security system is supposed to be going off. And since I did that and the security light did not go, the security system did not go off, I knew that is not where my problem is. My second thing to check was all the door actuators. Now there's recently been a lot of forums online saying that some of the door actuators are going bad. So what I did is, when I locked the car, I went to each door and make sure that none of the doors can open. So when you lock it and you're sure that you have locked the button, come to each door and you pry on the door handles. So once you do that for each door, that's how you make sure that the actuators are okay. So if you are prying on the door and the door is not opening, don't just do it once, do it multiple times. So I did it for at least several times on each door, and I also did it on the trunk, because there's also an actuator that's locking the trunk, so there's a sensor there as well. So do it on the trunk, do it on all 4 doors, and make sure that each door is locked. If the doors actuator has a problem, eventually it would release the door. No matter how many times you pull on it, it will eventually release the door. But I give it about several tries. I feel that's good enough. If the doors do not open, then I move on to the next test. So the next test that I checked was the rear passenger doors. And the reason is why I checked those doors is because of this child safety lock. Now, child safety lock can either be in the up position or the down position. The child security lock is stuck in the middle, and if it's stuck in the middle, what that causes is an interruption between the circuit. So the circuit cannot properly get a right reading, because the child safety lock cannot determine whether it wants it to be locked or wants it to be closed. Open. So you must check both doors and make sure that the child lock is either in the up position or down position. Now, if you make sure that all your locks are either in the up or down, mine is in up, then you move on to the next step. So now we made sure the doors are all locking, the actuators are okay, the fuse is okay, the alarm system is not engaging because we're hitting on the car. So now we move on to the next step. Now the next step is to check your hood, and the reason why I say that is because your hood should be level to the car. And what do I mean by that is this line should be level to this body panel. So if it is not, that means your hood is open. So what ends up happening is the security system is detecting that the engine bay hood is open, so you have to lock it properly. And to know if you lock it properly, make sure that the hood is seated properly directly between these two, the quarter panel and the hood. If you make sure that the line is set and even all the way through, then you know that how your hood is fully locked. So my problem is that it wasn't my hood that was giving me an issue, it was my trunk. Now the door latch on this here would get stuck. Whenever I open it, it would remain open in the open position. So I would manually have to push it back to close it. So every so often I spray a little bit of WD-40 and it releases it, and it gets the latch in there, the lever, to free. So once it becomes free, it works perfectly fine. So if you verify all of that is working and nothing, it seems all these tests are passing, the first thing you would have to now start diagnosing is internally. and start with the easiest one. And the easiest one is the hood. And the reason why I say the hood is because it's the simplest one to access and it's the easiest one to get to. So right here is your hood latch. Now your hood latch has a sensor built into it. That's the reason why I told you to make sure the hood is properly closed. Now right here is where the sensor is connected to the main power here. So you have to make sure that the wiring is not damaged on either one of these connectors. So if the wiring is damaged, then more than likely that is where your fault is. Now if you have checked the wiring and the wiring looks okay, no problems, so you have to come up here and make sure that the wiring on this connector here, get into there, right there, is perfectly fine. Now this connection between that sensor is on this little clip there, that connecting point. That connecting point is part of that sensor. So what happens sometimes is this area gets a little very dirty, and this was where my problem comes in. That whenever I change my oil, I would put a little bit of oil right on this hood latch, and that causes the oil to run all the way down and get onto the spring and get onto the sensor. So why I did that was because when I drive up here in Canada, and come winter they throw a lot of salt on the road. Unfortunately, salt and metal does not mix, so it causes it to rust. So when I put the oil there, is to keep this latch free, so that way it would never get stuck. So because the oil runs all the way in there, gets to the spring, and it gets all in between these connection points here, it keeps it free. But over time, all the dirt and all the buildup creates grease and creates all this gunk, and it gets stuck all in there. So it caused this to have a bad connection. So what my suggestion is to have this clean. And how you clean it is by first, get you in there. Now this is what I did. I first disconnected this connector. Reasons is because I wanted to make sure that I clean it properly. And how you did this, or how did I disconnect it, is right here. Let me get you a good view. It's right here on this connector, this tab here. You have to push this down. Once you push this down, you also have another tab. I'll show you on the opposite side, on the bottom, and that's it right there. So you have to use your left hand to push on this tab and your right hand to push on this tab, and it would release the connector. So once it starts releasing, now if you have never taken this connector off, or it is very dirty with a lot of grease or a lot of dirt, it is going to be difficult at first, but be very gentle with it. Do not pry from the wires. If you pry from the wires and you break them, then you may need a brand new hood latch with the sensor on there, or you might end up in a bigger problem than you're already in. Pry it apart with both hands. Once you pry it apart a little bit, stick a flathead screwdriver in between this connector here and try to pry it out a little bit as you constantly keep trying to pull and on both of these connectors. So pry it with a screwdriver a little bit, then pull the connector a little bit. Keep doing that. It's going to take some time, but it will come loose. Once it comes loose, your next step is to take a rag or a dirty cloth or something and cover up this thing here, right? Because it has an electrical connector here. So once you cover it up like so, And you also make sure that you cover up the sensor, because it's going to be exposed as well. So you cover that up and you make sure everything is sealed. So once it's sealed up like that, you come back over here and you look in between here. You should not see any of your electrical connectors there. Once it's clear like that, that means you're okay. So the next step is you need a WD-40. So you're going to spray WD-40 right onto this latch, this whole hood latch. You're going to spray it there, then you're going to aim it down there and spray it on the spring and spray it on the connector. Once you do that, you don't need to spray a whole lot in the beginning. What you do is just spray a little bit, and then you use a tool like this. This is one I use, but you can use a small screwdriver, something small enough to pry in between these little corners and like nooks and crannies. So what you're gonna do is, once you spray it, scrape out all the dirt, all the grease, everything, and have a towel or a cloth, and then you keep wiping it out. Don't spray it, let it run down, because you spray too much, it could damage something on the bottom there, and you don't want anything worse happening. Just spray a little bit, peel it off, and keep doing that. Now you should be able to get all in between here, all the way down. So you see how far I'm going right here? That's the way you should be able to go. Alright, keep cleaning this. You don't need to clean the sensors too much, just spray at it with the WD-40. Now you can either take this panel off here, and the way you do that is to pull all these connectors off. So you have one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Once you do that, this whole thing lifts up and slides out this way towards you. And the reason is because this is kind of covering a little bit of it over there, so you're pulling it towards you. Once you do that, you get it all in between there, and you can clean it a lot better. So you make sure you clean it out. Now, believe it or not, this was actually a lot more dirtier than what you see here. The dirt on this was so bad that I could not even tell that this was a spring. I could not even tell this was a sensor. So once I cleaned this out and I made sure everything was okay, I pretty much locked it down and I crossed my fingers. So again, once you clean it, if you press the lock button the first time, you would not hear a beep. All you would see is the flashing. Once you see the flashing light, within 5 seconds of that same locking, you should hear a beep with the flashing light. So here we go. First lock, within 5 seconds, the beep. Once I did that, I realized now my security system is activated, is immobilized, and I confirmed that by seeing my red light was flashing. So once my red light started flashing, that means I knew that if someone tried to break in this car, the moment any set of vibrations or hard hits, this alarm system would go off. So that is how you get back the beep in your car. So now if you have done that, if you have cleaned that, and you still not have a beep when you're trying to lock your car, your next suggestion that I can make is just go with your trunk. Now it's the second easiest thing to access. You can see the hood latch the moment you open it. You can see the hood latch right on the top. Clean it, spray it off, do whatever you can, lock it down. If that does not activate it, that means you have to take each door panel off one at a time and check the actuator manually. So the way you do that is to see when you lock the car if the actuator is going all the way or just halfway. So the first time I told you, when you use your door handle and you keep pulling on it, and eventually if it opens, that means that's the bad actuator. Sometimes that's not 100% to prove if you have a bad actuator. That's just a first time testing. So you check behind it, make sure that the actuator is locking all the way. If the actuators are all locking, then you mainly have a wiring issue. So the next suggestion that I can make is you either add an aftermarket security system, or when you lock your car, just make sure that you don't have anything valuable in there. So hope this video was able to help you. If so, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment, let me know if you have any suggestions, any questions. Until then, keep safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.